see, I wonder if he's gonna click on there, we're just gonna roll with it. So, all right, it is 5:26 p.m. and we will call the meeting to order. First order of business, I guess, the roll call. Steve, that's on you. Here.
Present.
So, okay.
All right. Next is the approval of the minutes from our December 5th meeting. See if everyone's had a chance to review them. Nothing popped up to me.
I'm going to approve the minutes from December 5th, 2023.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any opposed? Hearing none, they're approved. Next, we have citizen comment. And I don't believe anyone's here for citizen comment. So we'll
people downstairs.
Yeah. So we'll open it at 5:27 and we'll close it at 5:27. And then next on the agenda is executive session. And we will recess into executive session as outlined on the agenda. So I think we're in executive session, so I'll let Steve start. I'm just going to confirm.
Well,
Executive session, no actions were taken. And next on the agenda is Steve's management report. Or we skipping that this time?
no, I'm going to do it in my report. I don't have a lot to tell you since the last meeting, but I will say that both properties are full.
Yay.
And they've been full, you know, I think we've had 2 turnovers in the last 3 months. That's good. I've already told you about the trash, the 3 roofs. I got the check cut today for the first half of that. They got the materials in. Next week's supposed to be a nice clear week, so they'll probably start putting them on next week. And it'll only take them a couple of days to do the last 3. So that'll be the last thing. And then the big thing is the ongoing dealing with the USDA and trying to get an agreement with them to, wait, I'm going to tell this guy we're back on.
I think this is the executive session thing that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
So I'll go back into executive session. 5:46.
All right. So we're going to go 5:46 p.m. We'll reconvene in executive session to finish our agenda.
In my head on the way here, we need to talk about that. I lost it when we were, that's why I said, wait, hold on. But I couldn't remember.
We had a meeting early part of December, shortly after this last board meeting. There were 7 or 8 people from the USDA on, and Fritchie and I, the attorney. And you know, they're so hamstrung by the regulations that were written way back when that they're having a hard time figuring out a way for us to be able to readily prepay this note. The way they've proposed doing it is we would have to agree to a LURA that would stay in place until the last person living there the day the note gets paid off moves out. And so our argument to that was we're willing to keep the LURA in place until November of 29, which is the maturity date of the note.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But we gave them a hypothetical and said, let's say we rent to a guy who's 24 years old, wife, 2 kids. They move in we prepaid the note, they lived there for 50 years. We'd be stuck with the Lord for 50 years. And that's just not fair. Unfortunately, that's the way the regulations written. So then we posed in a previous meeting that Daniel and David and I had with them, we suggested, David actually suggested, well, what if we paid the note down to 100? You know, the principal will send an extra payment in and just say it's all principal and pay it down to 100. Well, then we should be paying like, you know, at 9% interest, 90 cents or $9 a month in interest, you know, just let it string out until November of 29 and then pay the 100 off. And what that month, you know, that month's $9. Well, you know, that caught them by surprise. I guess nobody ever said that to them before. They didn't know whether to.
I mean, they walked into it when they said that
Yeah.
there's no amortization schedule, there's no actual payment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then that was the first meeting. Then we had another meeting, which is David and I. And it was actually the pre-hearing for the appeal that we, you know, applied for. And so because we don't like this long-term work. And so with that meeting, during the course of it, a guy from the USDA, Huffman, said that, asked the judge if we could postpone the January 30th official appeal hearing so that he could talk to us and try to work out a deal. So we had that call. She agreed to it. And we had that call last week. And, you know, it kind of, you know, went the same way. And they finally brought Jay Tyler, who's the guy that oversees this property, Pete Dresden. They brought him into the Zoom meeting. And Jay said, well, Steve, he said, there may be some ways we can do this by lowering the interest rate, and, you know, a variety of different things. He said, let me get my boss and we'll set up a meeting next week. I said, okay. I said, but I got a board meeting on the 25th, so we need to do it before then because they don't meet that often. I said, we can't do Zoom meetings by state regulation anymore like we could in COVID, so it's got to be an in-person meeting. So we had a meeting this Tuesday. Jay and his boss, Byron, and David Fritchie. And basically what Byron said was, is he's going to figure out a way for us to be able to do it. And he said, you know, it's real difficult to pay a note down to $100 because of the small numbers. I said, so, you know, we'll pay it down to 1,000 or 5,000. You know, I said, but that's as much as we want to leave there. And if you can do a 1% interest rate on that remaining balance, that'd be great. But we want to be out of this thing in November of 29. And he wanted to know, you know, what is your plan? Why is it you don't want to do this? He said, have you got some financing lined up? You're going to, you know, refinance the company, the property for us? No. I said, you know, we have worked out a long-term plan to renovate this property. I said, we were able to do that by getting an 84% rent increase from y'all that Jay and I worked on for months, and we got it approved. I assume by you. He said, oh yeah, I remember that. That's never happened here before. I said, okay, anyway. He said, but, you know, he went on to say, he said, y'all are doing a great job and we appreciate what you're trying to do, but he said, I can tell you that we have done payouts, prepayments with other, you know, operators, other housing authorities. And they have never had an issue with this, you know, this last person Lura extension. And he said, I just really don't understand why you do. And I said, because we just don't think it's fair.
They,
It's not, I
They
think
just
they
want-
read it.
You know,
Yeah.
we're so,
they're like, we're out.
I don't know how somebody would say yes to that.
No,
and so
because it could go on forever because eventually a kid could become,
he could
On
become
the-
and stay.
yeah, he could be put on the lease and the next thing you know, parents move out, he's head of household and then his
Exactly.
kids. Yeah,
And I didn't even bring that possibility up.
yeah, I mean,
I don't think that they really read it and understood the implications of it before. I really don't.
Well, the short and the long of it was, is Byron said, and we just had this meeting Tuesday at 11. He said, we're on the phone, the four of us are on the Zoom for an hour. He said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna figure a way out to do this, in some form or fashion, the way that'll be acceptable to you guys. He said, but I'm gonna have to get back to you. So that's where we're at with it. One thing he said is that if we do that, if we agree to pay it down to 1,000, he said, then we'll have to do a new amortization schedule because the way it's set up now, it would still be charging, based on the amount that you owe today, which is, just so happens I got this email today. The balance on the note right now is 129,114. That was as of the end of December. And so,
Seems we paid off before we get around to getting this thing done.
that would be ideal, yeah.
I mean, we're never gonna need the city's money because by the time we can actually take action on it, it'll already be defeased. So,
Well, and the other thing that came up, and not the meeting I had this week, but the one last week, with this guy, Hoffman, and 3 or 4 other USDA people, is he brought up Franconia claims. And I said, well, what's a Franconia claim? Of course, I knew what it was. Because I had not told them that we filed a Franconia claim. And so he told me, the government has paid out millions on that. And then one of the ladies that was on the call said, yeah, and the people that had Franconia, that made Franconia claims, if they wanted to prepay, we would never let them out of the last person, Laura. And, it was kind of like,
Oh, my goodness.
it was funny.
just talking in circles.
And David, Frenchie and I were both on and we're texting each other back and forth.
Right.
And I told him, I said, I have already filed for a claim, don't say anything. But it was, I don't know. That's where we're at with it. So it's still an up in the air deal. I'm hoping that by next week, Byron will get back to me or Jay Tyler will. I asked them to make it quick because we need to resolve this. And I told them, I said, what the deal is the mayor wants this note paid off. He was, he called it criminal. And I also told him, I said, well, he's a young guy. He didn't know that back in the 70s that the interest rates were 15 and 16%. So this was a good deal, at the time. But anyway.
2 months ago, it was still a good deal.
Yeah, true. And so that's where I'm at with it.
Okay.
And, hopefully we'll have another meeting and I'll be able to give you all a resolution. And then I'll go to Jerry and say, look, here's what we need to do because of this, extension of the LURA. And I'll explain to him, you need to talk to mayor into agreeing to it. Because he still got, he had me give him what the balance was back in September so they could budget in this year's fiscal year enough money to, to cover that. So
All right.
that's all I got. I am planning in February, I'm gonna start planning to have a open house.
Or we need to get out of, we need to get
Go
back
back
to
to
regular,
executives and directors.
We need to what?
we need to get back to a regular agenda. Are we done in
We're still in
executive?
regular, yeah, we're out of,
So we're done with
this was not in, the deal with USDA was not executive session.
Oh, I think we went back on it.
We went back into executive session.
Yeah, when you went to, I thought you said you went to go tell him to put us back in executive session.
Oh, no, I was gonna tell them to take us out of executive session.
Oh,
My mistake, sorry.
okay.
I'm still using 544.
So when would USDA find out about the franchise?
Well, that could be another year. Remember,
I'm just surprised they don't know yet.
well,
Well, I don't know. Well, I
Based on everything that we have experienced.
I guess I just don't know the steps there.
well, the deal, when I talked to John Coppersmith a couple of months ago, he said that we were in group number 47, whatever that means. So there's a bunch of them that are in that. I don't know how many. But if you'll remember, when we first talked to him about this, he said this was going to take 2 to 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So
But I
we're
just don't know
just
when-
1 year in right now, or, 14, 15 months, 16 months in.
Well, I just figured there's conversations with other parties that would allude that we were doing this.
Well, and there may be. There may be, I have no idea, but my opinion of dealing with the USDA is they make HUD look like a normal operation because everybody's compartmentalized and it's like, don't you get in my area, that kind of thing. It's, and that's what my attorney, David Fritchie, was saying earlier when I was talking to him. He thought the same thing, it's just so structured. And even that Byron, when we talked to him on Tuesday, he's the boss, but he's got to talk to some other people first before he comes back to the plan.
He's got to get his people on board.
Yeah, I guess. So anyway, that is all I got to tell you.
All righty. That concludes our management report.
Yes.
We're not going to take action on, we're not going to consider and take action on the posted new business,
Correct.
which means the next agenda item is adjourning. And it is 6 p.m. And I do not believe we need a motion to adjourn. But no other business. So it's 6 p.m. on the dot. We are adjourned.
Once I find out about the USDA thing, I'll send you all the email.